Glenn, you probably want to hit the record button.
I do.
I thought you might. And there it is. All right. Ellen, are you all set?
I am.
Okay. Then let's get this started. It's March 16, 2021. It is the third Tuesday of the month meeting of Kingston, New Hampshire Planning Board. And here we will go through our checklist to make ourselves legal under the remote meeting scenario caused by the pandemic. And I'll read the normal stuff here. As chair of the Kingston Planning Board, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and contemporaneously listen to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are, first of all, utilizing Zoom for this electronic meeting. All members of the board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through this platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen and participate in this meeting by dialing the following phone number, area code 929-205-6099, and using the passcode 881-8005-4139, or by linking up via the web address, which can be found at the bottom of the legal notice for this meeting, which has been publicly posted around town as required by the RSA, and can also be found on the town's website, kingstonnh.org, and going to the planning board page and finding the agenda for tonight, and the URL for linking up to the Zoom meeting can be found on that agenda. Okay, we previously gave notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing the meeting, including how to access the meeting using Zoom or telephonically. Instructions have also been provided on the website of the board, and I've already given that. If anyone has a problem, please call 603-642-3342, extension 6, or email at the following address, pb, as in planning board, at kingstonnh.org. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. So we'll start by taking roll call attendance, and when each member states their presence, please state whether there is anyone in the room with you during the meeting, which is required under the right to know law. So, all right. We do have some members of the public, and at the appropriate time, if you wish to speak, we will open it up for public comment. But we'll first start by doing roll call. And Ellen, would you like to start us off?
Yeah. Glenn Koppelman,
Present in my home, alone.
Richard Wilson,
Present, alone.
Robin DuGuay,
Present and joined by my son.
Lynn Merrill,
Present with family members roaming around.
Peter Coffin,
Present, home alone.
Chris Bashaw,
Present, home, family in the house.
and is Peter here yet?
Yes.
Peter's here.
I'm here.
Okay. Are you there alone?
Yes, Tammy's somewhere in the house.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a full board of regular members. We also have our two alternates, Steve Hadfield and Ellen Faulkner. Ellen is also our administrative assistant, and they will be available to participate in discussion, but they will be non-voting members for tonight. We also, hello.
I just didn't know if I could ask Steve if he was home and alone.
Oh. Steve, you should unmute yourself.
I
There we
am home and I am alone.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Ellen, for
Home and
catching
alone
that.
in the room. No problem.
And you are as well, Ellen?
I am home and alone in this room.
Okay.
So Glenn,
So in addition, let me just, in addition to that, we also have our town planner, Glenn Greenwood, with us. Yes, Lynn?
someone texted me a little while ago that Robin and Peter had not yet been sworn in.
Oh, really?
And I don't know if that's true or not. And if it's not true, does that affect our meeting tonight?
Well, it would mean that they couldn't vote and we'd have to substitute alternates for them.
That is true. I completely forgot
Oops.
to go up.
Can happen.
Same.
Okay, Ellen?
Yeah.
I would double check while we're doing this because I thought that they served until their replacements were sworn in and they are their own replacement. But I can look that up while you go forward. But I thought that that was one of those iffy things that until, like, say there was a challenge to, say other people ran and there was a challenge and a recount, they would serve until the other people were officially found to be able to take those spots. So I'll look that up while you guys are doing your thing if you want.
Okay,
My understanding is if there's a challenge there, stay in office until the challenge is resolved, if it was somebody beating one of them into the position. But since they were unopposed, I think they are out of luck.
that's probably true.
I'll look it up for you.
Okay, Ellen, if you, we might not have to be doing a vote at the, well, actually we do. All right. Well, let's just, our first hearing is, actually our only hearing is scheduled to start in about 5 minutes. So just to make sure, did everyone receive some correspondence that went out by mail today? I realize it was out, it came out in the afternoon, but there was some additional stuff for tonight. Also a revised agenda to list some of those things. Also, one of the things we need to do tonight, since this is our first meeting after the town vote, is we need to reorganize the board and choose chair, vice chair, and HDC rep. Now we have that.
Congratulations, Glenn.
We have that on our list for later in the meeting. If anyone wishes us to do that first, we can do that during this intermediate time. Although it's going to require nominations, so we might want to wait till we have an answer on that.
Yeah, I think we should wait since we have members of the public waiting for the other hearing.
Well, I wasn't going to take up time for the hearing, Richard. It's just that we had a 5-minute block in here in the middle before we start.
I don't know if that's enough, but
So if the board is okay with it, we'll leave it for later where we have it on our agenda. All right, seeing no objection, it's how we've been doing it for several years now. We've taken it up at the end of the meeting. Let's see, we have approval. We need to take up 2 sets of minutes, which I believe Ellen emailed out as a reminder, although they had been sent out previously, I think. Let's see. Richard, are you going to be leading the discussion on the driveway permits?
Yes, I didn't know we were talking about driveway permits, but
Well, it's on the agenda. And I don't have any specific information, so that's why I'm asking, because I believe this is a selectman-led initiative.
You asked me to put that on the agenda like 2 weeks ago. Richard,
I think I know what I'm talking about. Okay. That,
Well-
and the town property.
And,
That's on
and
the-
town, and then we have the town property discussion as well. Okay. All right. Ellen, are you still searching?
yeah, you go ahead. I'm good. Go ahead.
In the interim, perhaps Glenn could say that Ellen and Steve will be acting as voting members in Robin's and my place for this evening. Unless you can have it definitive. Oh, sorry, Ellen.
Ellen?
Well, we can do that, but we can't do that when it comes to voting on board members because alternates can't vote. That's in your bylaws.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, you mean for officers?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
You'd be too short.
right, but, all right,
I'm
well,
just
we're
saying.
almost, we're at the time where we need to be dealing with our public hearing. So let's do that, and that is going to require a vote. So Ellen, until you get an answer to the question, we will have, Ellen and Steve sit in as voting members until we get an answer to that question on for Robin and Peter. Okay. All right, so close enough to 6:45. We have a hearing scheduled for Berkshire Dominion Holdings, also known as Saddle Up Saloon at 92 Route 125 in Kingston. It's tax map R8 lots 40 and 40A. And this is for an amended site plan that is coming before us. And at our last meeting, we continued this to tonight with the condition that new materials be received by Glenn or Ellen. Remind me of the date.
I'm sorry.
What was the date that we had agreed?
I think it was February 20. I'd have to look at my calendar. It's the last Thursday in February.
Okay. And materials were not received until after that time. And they came in recently enough that there wasn't enough time for us to get them out for department head review or for town engineer or town planner review. So the applicant has requested a continuance, and this note has come from the applicant's engineer, SEC and Associates, dated March 11, and it's addressed to this board. It says, please accept this letter as a formal request to continue review of the above referenced application to the next available planning board hearing date. In addition, we request continuance of the 65-day review period, 30 days beyond that date as well. Thank you for your consideration. Sincerely, Charlie Zilch, project manager. So. Thoughts from the board? And if you're going to speak, please unmute yourself and raise your hand so that I can recognize you. Okay, not seeing much. Glenn or Ellen, do you have any further thoughts on this one? Any suggestions for us? Ellen?
I would suggest that we continue it to the third Tuesday in April, whereas we already have the new plans.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so we do have new plans, though. We didn't receive them in time.
They came in last week, end of
Yeah,
last
they
week.
came in Thursday.
Yeah.
So,
So if If we were to do that, that would be April 20.
So moved.
Second,
Oh, who moved it?
Me.
Chris, I think.
Chris, Chris and Peter
Peter.
Baiki.
Peter Baiki.
Peter Baiki seconded it. Okay. All right, further discussion on the motion. Okay. Ellen, if you could call the roll, please, unless you want me to do it.
No, I can do it.
Okay.
Glenn Kopelman,
Yes?
Richard Wilson. Richard, you're muted.
Richard?
Yes. I'm still yes.
Robin Duguay,
Yes.
Lynn Merrill,
Yes,
Peter Coffin,
Wait a minute. I thought that,
Can't vote.
I
Oh,
thought that
Peter's well,
Robin and Peter are not voting right now.
I'm not voting. So
actually,
sorry, I
I
wasn't
believe-
ready to unmute.
if you want to pause for a second, it's chapter 669:10, term of office is that except as otherwise provided, the term of office of any officer elected under this chapter shall begin upon his election and qualifications for office and shall end upon the election and qualification of his successor. So until they're sworn in, these people serve.
Okay.
So basically, you don't need to be sworn in between terms.
Well, you'd have to at some point because you only have a certain period of time for you to get sworn in anyway. But I think it was just last Friday that was the time to even ask for a recount, which is not an issue because that time period is over. But until they're qualified, which is sworn in, I think that they can still serve. If anyone just disagrees, that's fine, but it's 669:10.
And our former town moderator is acknowledging with positive head nods here.
And I was going to say, if you want to ask the current one, that's what she thinks too. So we're all good.
Well, we got both, so that's a good thing.
And Ellie, I'll do both of them when I.
All right,
tomorrow.
so does anyone have an issue then with that position? Okay, so the sitting board of 7 members stands. Peter and Robin will be voting. Steve and Ellen, you will not. Okay. All right, so Robin, you've already voted on this, so we're okay with you.
Thank goodness.
I'll vote aye.
And I think you were on Peter Coffin.
Yeah, and I'm voting aye. Yes.
Okay, and then I'm sorry. And then have I asked Chris Bashaw yet?
You did not, but I am a yes.
Okay, and then Peter Baiki.
yes.
Okay,
Did we catch everybody?
yes.
Okay. So I'm assuming that motion was to continue this hearing to April 20 at 6:45 p.m.
Yes.
Correct.
Chris, that was your motion, yes?
Yep.
Okay. Now, there are a couple of folks on the call. I recognize one of the names, the others I don't. If you are joining us for this hearing, this is your notice that the meeting is continued to April 20th. And if you are here for this hearing, do you have any questions on the action that the board just took? I'm seeing nothing. Okay. All right. All right. So the motion carries and we will see this application in April. Okay, now we have a bunch of board business to do. We have some correspondence, we have minutes, we have a few things from the Board of Selectmen. All right. How about we do the minutes to start? February 2nd and February 16 are the minutes that we will be dealing with tonight.
I'll move that we accept the February 2nd minutes as written.
Second.
Motion by Peter Coffin, second by Richard Wilson. Discussion? Any corrections or adjustments to those minutes? All right, seeing none. Ellen, if you would call the roll, please.
Oh, sure. Glenn Copeland,
Yes?
Richard Wilson,
Yes.
Robin Dugay,
Yes.
Lynn Merrill,
Yes.
Peter Coffin,
Yes.
Chris Bashaw,
Give a thumbs up.
Yes.
and Peter Baiki.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's unanimous. That's motion carries. And February 16 minutes. That was a page turner.
Yeah, that was a long one. I'll make a motion that we accept them as written, and with a comment, while I remember it, if Glenn can send us a copy of the final conditions of approval for the 266 Route 125 project, would be great. Anytime in the future when you get them done. But I'll move that the minutes be accepted as written.
Second.
Okay, motion by Peter Coffin, second by Richard Wilson. Discussion, Lynn?
Well, I must say, I only got to page 16. And Ellen did a fabulous job with this. But on page 10 in the second paragraph, second sentence, an I should be an it. And on page 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the paragraph that starts subdivision plan, Route 125 should have a capital R with route. And other than that, I'm sorry, I only got as far as page 16.
And you caught 2 typos.
I caught 2 typos. I am amazed at the
Job.
job that Ellen did. Amazed.
It was a phenomenal job of minutes, though.
It was a difficult meeting to take minutes of, and I think she just did a phenomenal job.
Yep, agreed.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else on those minutes? Okay, Ellen, if you'd like to do the honors.
So we want the minutes to say to accept as amended.
Correct. I'm assuming that's what you would want to do, Peter?
Oh, sorry,
You made the
yes, accept them as amended by
You
Lynn.
made the motion, yeah.
Sorry.
And Richard, you're good with the second?
Yes.
Okay,
All set?
Yep.
Glenn Copeland,
yes?
Richard Wilson,
Yes.
Robin Dugay,
Yes.
Lynn Merrill,
Yes.
Peter Coffin,
Yes. That's
Okay.
that button again.
Chris Bashaw,
Yes.
and Peter Baiki.
Yes.
Okay, that passes unanimously. Thank you. All right. Ellen, remind me, you had sent out 3 sets of minutes, I think, and one of them was from January. Should that one be on this list as well?
It wasn't on the list, and I went through to see what may or may not have been accepted, and I think it was that Wednesday meeting in January. So I sent that out, but it was very little time, so we can add it to the next agenda. I
Yep.
just figured I'd send it out, and if people read it, fine, and if not, we'll do it next meeting.
Okay, yeah, we can do it next time. That's fine.
Yep.
It's just that I was remembering there was a 3rd set of minutes and I wasn't sure if we were doing them tonight. Okay. All right. Richard Wilson, do you want to discuss the next item regarding driveway permits?
I will discuss it, and Ellie just walked away because I may need a little help. But the reason that this is being brought up is the selectmen would like to take control of the driveways instead of it being under the planning board. And the purpose in that is that we're going to start requiring driveway permits before some of the inspections happen. so we can keep control on new buildings that are going up without any permits, driveway cuts, that type of thing. We're gonna start requiring driveway permits for new septic systems, things like that. And we just thought it would be easier for the inspectors to keep up with it. And it basically is watched over by the highway garage at this point. But we're gonna also monitor it with all the inspectors. And I don't know if Ellie wants to add anything to that, but
Ellie? Oh, hang on, Ellie. Ellen?
I just want to say at the last inspectors meeting, this was brought up and I asked, we were told that there was an RSA that allowed this for the selectmen, and we asked that it be sent to the planning board, and nobody sent it to us.
okay.
So Susan and I looked at the RSA that had to do with driveways, and you might want to have more discussion about this.
Oh, okay. Ellie, did you have something on this?
Well, not a lot. It's been an issue the last year or so with permits not being pulled for driveways, and then people.
Oh, Ellie, your video is frozen
never heard
and
of
your
a driveway permit.
your
And with the code
audio.
enforcement officer,
She can't hear you.
Ellie, can you hear me? Oh, okay. Well, Ellie, if you can hear me, you're whoops.
What she said was we've had a lot of issues with permits
you.
not being pulled.
Okay.
And we're thinking that if it's put in the inspector's hands, that maybe that will slow down.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, based on what Ellen just said, maybe we can have more discussion on this at our
Next meeting.
next meeting.
Yeah, there are two RSAs that I think the selectmen need to look at, because unless there's something else, we'll talk later, but unless there's an RSA that Rich had, Susan and I can't find anything that actually gives the Board of Selectmen that authority unless the planning board grants it to them. So
That's what we're here asking the planning board to do.
I think you probably need to look at there were two other RSAs that go along with that. So I just think that you should take a week, look
Okay.
at them, talk a little bit, and then come back to the planning board, because there's some issues.
Okay. Well, if everyone's all right, we'll table this discussion until our next meeting.
Okay.
Okay. And Ellie, I'm sorry, we missed a lot of what you said. It looks like you're back, but you were breaking up a lot and your video was frozen.
I'm sorry about that. I thought I had a good connection tonight, but I obviously not. We just we're not looking to take on more work for the select board. We're looking to expedite the process so that things are done with more process in mind and in sequential order. So
Yep.
it's not a matter of we want more work. It's a matter of we need to get these permits done because some of these driveways are not being constructed correctly. And we've had problems in the zoning board in the last few years where we've had to make variances because it's one of those, oops, they put it in one place when they weren't supposed to. So we just want to coordinate efforts, and I don't mind waiting another week and we could talk about it again. No problem at all.
Oh,
Thank
okay, great. All right. Any other comments on this from the board? Okay.
Just a quick question on that one. Right now, we subcustody that authority to Rich St. Hilaire, right?
To the road agent.
Road agent, yeah, and obviously whoever that will be in the future. But I'm just thinking that we're not actively involved in the permitting process anyway. As far as that goes, we don't actually see them when they come in. They go straight to the highway department,
Right.
and presumably to the inspectors.
That's because the planning board has given that authority to the highway road agent.
Right. Yeah. So, all right. I just wanted to make sure I understood why we hadn't seen them. That's something. Obviously, on the big subdivisions, we always see them, but Thanks.
I really don't see much of a change happening in this process other than we can hold up occupancy permits and some things like that over it a little easier. But we'll
Well,
read it and review it
I'm
next
not-
week. Let's just,
I guess I'd like to see all the material because I'm not sure that even the way it stands right now, it doesn't take that authority away from you anyway, but
okay,
let's,
let's table it.
we'll be in a better spot if we have everything, if everyone's got the same material to look at.
And I can mail all that out to everybody, or anything the Board of Selectmen wants anyone to look at, the RSAs, so that people can have a more informed discussion at the next hearing.
Okay, sounds good. And Glenn, if you have any guidance for us on this before the next meeting or at the next meeting, that would be helpful as well. Hello?
I was unaware of this discussion happening, so I'm happy to look at information, so
Okay, well, I want to make sure you're in the loop on it, so,
I appreciate that.
all right.
I would like to as well.
Yeah, good. Okay, next item on the agenda is town-owned land sale discussion. And again, this is a selectmen's item. Apparently, there are a number of lots that are being considered for sale. I'm assuming it's a tax sale situation, and
Right. Per the ballot question, it stated that any land to be sold would first go to conservation and the planning board for comment. And that's what we're doing at this point. We're still talking with legal about exactly how to get rid of the land. It's probably going to be public auction on the courthouse or the town hall steps. And, you know, we're gonna have to write everything up perfect because most of them are non-buildable lots. There is the one lot in question in Pillsbury Pasture that needs to be researched by the planning board on what the restrictions were on that and whether we can even sell it. But the landowner next to it is using it, and we kind of want to either get him off of it or make him pay for it and buy it. You know, so that's basically what we're doing on this, is we basically are fulfilling a ballot question that we have to bring it to the planning board and the conservation for comment.
And at this point, Susan didn't put the Pillsbury Pasture one on the list that we sent out, just so people aren't wondering which one that is and which one you're talking about.
Yeah, that's the one that we're giving to Dennis first to check, or somebody was gonna check the title. Maybe Sumner was gonna check the title on it to see if there was anything in the title that gave restrictions or anything, any reason we couldn't sell it.
Hey, Richard, Glenn, I think we'd asked Glenn Greenwood to research the original subdivision plans. to
Right,
see-
and I did that.
Okay,
It is clear that that parcel was set aside to be open space for that subdivision, as well as providing a drainage swale to stay in effect there.
Well, we were gonna put an easement on it if it was sold with the drainage swell on it,
I
but
was gonna say, that's not something that should easily be relinquished, because that drainage swale should stay in place. In all honesty, that drainage swale limits the recreational value as far as being able to place structures there, or create a ball field, because that drainage area is substantial on that lot. That being said, it's very clear, in my opinion, that that was distinctly why that lot was given by the developer as a means to maintain within the subdivision an open space component, even if it wasn't for active recreation.
so does
So-
that, your recommendations that we keep it and don't think about selling it?
My recommendation is you definitely want to do that title research, because
Right.
if it's in the title, I don't think you can sell it.
Okay,
But even beyond that, I think you should consider the fact that it was the intent of the decision-making board at the time, the planning board at the time, that that was gonna be an open space element for the subdivision.
Okay, well, we'll kind of table that one anyway until we get the title research back. And, I mean, the worst case is we're gonna have to ask the guy to take all this equipment off the land that he's
Yeah,
parking.
and man, I'd ask him to do that sooner than later in the hopes that he doesn't somehow try to say something about inverse possession, because it's been in
No.
existence, the lot's been in existence for
He's already been
20 years at
notified.
least, right?
Right, he's been notified
Good.
once already, so, okay.
I do think that if we sell a piece of property that was in a subdivision plan as open space, we are setting a precedent for selling any other open space with any other subdivision plan. And I think we should proceed with extreme caution if our recommendation is to do that.
I agree.
Agreed. And the other consideration is that if in fact the other purpose for that lot is to provide drainage for that area, the fact of selling it to someone with the perhaps intent of that purchasing individual to develop the lot could create a real conflict there.
I think every lot that we're considering selling will have in the title cannot be developed in any form or fashion.
Oh.
You know, no building permits will be issued for any of the Great Pond area. All will be sold as unbuildable lots.
Well, but I guess I was thinking about the Pillsbury Pasture one. I don't know how big that lot is.
It's way too small. It doesn't have the frontage.
Right, I think it's one full acre. I
Oh,
forget, but
okay.
I think it's a
Okay.
full acre.
It doesn't have 200 foot of road frontage, I don't believe.
Okay, so it's a non-buildable lot anyway.
Right.
However, he is using it. And
Right.
at what point will it impact the drainage?
Yeah, he's using it as a parking lot.
That's a separate issue. I think that,
Okay.
go ahead on that one. Removing the equipment.
So then I assume all of these, we had a map that came with this email from the selectmen that these are all lots that begin with U's. So I believe these are Great Pond Park lots. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, okay. So I realized that you need input from conservation and from planning. Have you got response from conservation at this point?
We have not.
Okay. Has this been provided to them for their input?
Yes, it has.
Okay.
Yes. Could I just say one thing,
You guys.
Glenn, about those?
Yep.
Kevin St. James went over them with me. He came up and talked with me about them maybe 6 weeks or so ago. And I understand to a degree, certainly from an abutter standpoint, why it would be beneficial to pick up more land, but that's a really congested area down there. And just the planner side of me says, if they are owned by the town and there is some reason in the future to drop a well or do something there that would benefit a greater public good, I don't know why in such a congested area we would be so interested in getting rid of all of them.
The main reason is that they're all too small to put a public well on, according to the state. That the distance of the well would be too close to the abutters' wells, to, you know, all the issues with the buildings next to them. The lots are tiny. I mean, they're like an eighth of at 0.8 acres or 0.08 acres.
They're very small.
They're tiny.
They're very small.
And, you know, the fire department went through them to see if there was anything for a water source or anything they wanted. You know, most of them are inadequate for that. You know, and we're not saying this is definitely going to happen. We're just doing all the research in it to see what we want to get rid of. I mean, our thought in the beginning was to sell it to each abutter, split them and let them buy them. And we were told by council that we can't do that, that we have to do public auction, that everybody has a right to buy them, even though it's going to be sold as an unbuildable, undevelopable lot. So,
What's the purpose of selling them? It's not like it's going to increase any tax revenue to the town because they're so small. It's not going to increase the value of the land for an abutter.
well, if you get 10 dimes, you've got $1, I guess is my only point to that, that all these little ones add up.
But they don't.
But they don't.
They don't. If you've got
That's right.
if you've got a lot that small and you add it to an abutter's lot, the value is going to be exactly the same.
Okay, we have
Because
that,
the value for a lot is whether or not it can be subdivided.
right.
If it can't be
But
subdivided,
We
then all
also,
lots have a basic value.
we also have the issue that most of those lots are being used already by the abutters. You know, so it's like,
Well, that's a legitimate compliance issue.
right,
And if the board,
But
if
do
the
we
way
get-
the board would prefer to deal with that is not have to, go out doing code enforcement, I understand that.
yeah, I mean, we might get into spending more money to try to enforce anything on this than we are if we get rid of lots. I mean, like I say, nothing's definite. It's all just in the consideration stage at this point. And Ellie looked like she wanted to say something, so.
Go ahead, Ellie.
All right, let's see if it works this time. Two things. Number one, we're only talking 3 lots, and I understand the issue. That's not going to add a lot of value to the tax bill, because here in Ridgewood, for example, some lots are half an acre, some are 3/4. It's all billed as a tax as 1 lot in the Ridgewood. But there's been 3 neighbors who have expressed interest in joining it to their property, and that makes sense. Not a wholesale clearing out of Great Pond. And it's not likely to be used for future wealth. If we ever had town water and town septic, that's not going to do any, putting this land into the abutters tax bill is not going to adversely affect any of those decisions. But there are 2 lots where there are a number of trees that present a hazard for which the town is responsible. And if those get sold, that stipulation would be that those trees come down and they're no longer responsibility of the town. So that's how this originally started, I don't know, 6 months ago. And the 2 neighbors that have the trees and don't always get along. So we thought we'd be selling the land, and then those trees would become responsibility of the owner, not of the town.
Okay, Ellen?
Well, I don't know if we're talking the same thing, because the list we have has 8 properties on it, not 2 or 3.
And you have the whole list of all the properties. Right now, we're looking at a couple of them in particular.
So are we talking about 2 or 8?
Well, I think we're talking about all of them as far as possibility of selling them. At this point, we have 2 that we're really looking at getting rid of, but mainly because of the tree issue and the liability issue.
Yeah, Ellie?
That list is to show that the possibility of how many we're going to have. We've only had the 3 requests other than Pillsbury Pasture. But we want to develop a process and procedure now and not wait till we have 10 lots. I think we're just trying to look ahead.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay.
Anticipate problems. And to talking with you guys and with Glenn, and I mean, this is what we should be doing on a number of things, and that we like to be more proactive these days.
Okay, Ellen?
Then I do have a question about specific lots. Is one number 87 that looks like it's 3 times the regular ones? Because they're all tiny. And number 87 looks like it's probably had 2.5 or 3 of those small lots combined. So I'm wondering if you know what the size of that is, and why that one would not accommodate a well. And I really can't tell the sizes. I'm just going by the picture and what it shows. And because I know that in the past, the reason why some of these things had not been approved for sale for the planning board was for those future issues, such as a well, things of that nature, and also a place to put snow. So that when things were being plowed, there's not a lot of places if there's a large storm. And I know that had been the previous discussion with the planning board, to have places where snow could be plowed that the town owned, instead of being on no place, or being put in the pond. And the other question I have, and again, just because it had been discussed in the past, a long time ago, is either lot number 96 or lot number 98. If you sell those, I believe that in the past, those two lots were looked at by the town as possible emergency egresses, either to or from Camp Lincoln, in case, as had happened in the 80s or something, when Great Pond Park was almost closed off because of flooding. And there had been discussion that if you could get these lots attached with Camp Lincoln, who I believe are now trying to buy it, that it would somehow wind up being an emergency egress.
Once again, not all the lots that we're planning on selling. These are all the lots that are town owned. We
Right.
have gone through them step by step to decide whether to keep them or to sell them. You know, there's two right now that have great liability for the town because of the trees.
Do you know which ones those are, Rich?
No, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't have it. I mean, I guess I thought that this was gonna be so the planning board could say, no, we don't want to sell that because of the same reason we're saying on Pillsbury Pasture, there's a right of way, there's something that was put in the neighborhood, that type of thing. I didn't think it was the planning board that was gonna decide the town's best interest, that they were gonna decide planning board issues.
Well, but these would be planning board issues because they have plans for the future for either water or septic, or again, I don't care what you do. I'm just telling you that this had been the discussion on why these lots had been saved in the past. If this current board of selectmen is not interested in that, that's fine. But there was discussion in the past about properties that abutted Camp Lincoln because there had been concerns in the past about emergency egress, either from Camp Lincoln or from Great Pond Park.
Fully aware of that, but the state said the lots were all too small for a public well. So that was taken out of the
Okay.
whole process.
One of the other considerations, though, is that, and I don't know if this was valid or not, but if at some point in the future that area gets public water and or sewer, there might be some need for infrastructure, pumping house or something or other. And so, you know, it might not, one of these lots might not support a well, but they might support some kind of infrastructure that goes along with water and sewer. Just, you know, just a thought. And I realize there's nothing on the planning board, nothing on the books at this point in the planning phase about any kind of infrastructure like that. But it has been discussed that if the town were ever to put in that kind of infrastructure, that would be one of the high priority areas for doing it.
There's also been discussion about Cistern Location, which is often required in subdivisions, like the one down at Summers, Chicken Farm. There's a small lot with a very, very large tank on it to be able to refill fire engines from. And that's the type of thing that a lot like that could be used for, not necessarily, you know, an active well, but to be useful as a cistern location. Yes, I know it's on near a lake, but you can't hook up a hose to a lake easily.
You absolutely,
No time.
to the lake, you can drop it.
Actually, they do, I think, frequently.
They do refill us at the landing, but you can't on certain slopes and access, and especially in the winter, that's not that easy. Whereas a cistern does have immediate access. I'm just thinking. I was going to mention what Glenn had mentioned about the future of septic systems and water systems, and that being the top priority. That location would be the top priority because obviously the systems that are in place down there really aren't capable of handling that. But I just would suggest to the selectmen that they think about planning in that sense, and not to do something that would eliminate that infrastructure capability.
So Ellie and Richard,
I'm sorry.
just so that I get the right perspective on this, the reason we're talking about this is just to provide some thoughts and ideas, because ultimately this is a select board issue, right?
That is correct. And it's a ballot question that stated it must go to the planning board and the conservation.
Okay, for comment and input.
Yeah, because the conservation, in my opinion, is probably gonna have more input than anything, saying that it's some of the few areas that, you know, supports different species and everything like they always talk about, but,
Yep.
And we're not necessarily considering a wholesale sale of everything, but, you know, an item case by case basis. And quite honestly, the technology, since we first talked about needing wells down at the Great Pond, has changed quite a bit. So we don't know what town water would look like in that area or anything else at this point. But we're just looking case by case, a procedure in place that we can all be comfortable with, and that's our goal.
Yep. Okay. Ellen?
I would just, I would ask Rich St. Hilaire, where snow is put in this area, because I know that was one of the issues. I know you talked to Rich, but just that was one of the issues with keeping some of them, is just so there would be a place for snow storage. I would ask about the emergency things that fire and police have talked about, and it has to do with Camp Lincoln, and whether or not those,
talked to all of them.
I'm sorry,
We've already talked to all of them and gotten input.
okay. So maybe they don't need emergency access anymore, but I know that was an issue before.
I said they have given us input on it. You know, we're still leaving the Camp Lincoln part open.
And again, that may be the one you want to sell, but maybe you just want to make sure you keep some sort of easement. If they can't use it for anything anyway, that maybe you want to keep some sort of easement to be able to do that in the future, if that's something the town needs. So those were the two concerns. One's already brought up the pumping station, which was an issue, but I know that these were the issues discussed by multiple planning boards in the past as to why they did not encourage the sale of the majority of these properties. I'm not saying all of them, but so.
Okay.
Okay. Other thoughts from planning board members? All right. Glenn, anything further from you?
I mean, I think the comment about the infrastructure is right. You don't know what the future is going to hold. I mean, if you have to drop monitoring wells, it's better to drop monitoring wells on public property than on private property, because you can and test them whenever you want to. You don't have to make arrangements to trespass in order to accomplish that. We don't know what could happen, except it is a congested area of our town, and it may behoove the town to maintain a presence down there of public ownership.
Okay. All right, Richard and Ellie, have you heard enough on this, or?
Yes.
Oh, okay. There's no formal action we need to take then, is that right?
No.
All right. Anything else before I leave this topic from anybody? Okay. We have, and this also came from the Board of Selectmen, and I believe this was emailed out to us today. This is regarding Dan Park's property on, I'm presuming this is on, oh, help me with the road. Folly? No.
Smallpox.
Smallpox.
Was Wilson, it got changed back.
Okay, so this is an email that actually started with Susan Ayer to Ellen this morning. It says, hi Ellen, please see if the planning board has any problem with the selectmen signing an excavation intent for Dan Parks. His lot is 18 acres. The total permitted area is 4 acres, and the excavation area as of April 1st is 2 acres. He plans to excavate 70,000 cubic yards in this tax year. The total remaining cubic yards he plans to excavate is 150,000. And so Ellen has passed this on to us for discussion tonight. Maybe Glenn, it would be good for you to, if you have any comment for us, I'm assuming this relates to the site plan that came before us. for
Yeah,
this
I mean,
pond.
presumably what he's proposing meets the requirements in the approval that we granted. And it will be within the area that was set aside and approved for excavation. And he certainly, that number, 70,000 cubic yards, that's not exceeding the approval that we granted him in by way of volume.
So
I'm interested, has he secured the bond for the road?
Well, that was my point. This must have been talked about 2 weeks ago when I wasn't there, because last I knew, he had not secured the bond and we were not allowing him to do it.
That was my understanding as well.
And Ellie, was this talked about 2 weeks ago when I was gone?
It wasn't talked about. Susan just got it and asked me if there was a problem, and I'm like, I'll send it to the board. I don't know.
So, I mean, that, from my perspective, that would be a problem.
That's the major
If there
problem.
isn't,
And that's what he couldn't.
if there isn't a bond in place.
That's what he couldn't do before, was come up with the bond money. So that's why he has not
Yeah.
put anything off site. You know,
And
in
that was not
quantities,
discussed
he's
at the select
letting
board.
small individuals fill pickups, but that's it.
Ellie?
It did not come before the select board meeting 2 weeks ago.
Okay. All right.
I say we table this too, and I find out why this came to you guys, and I don't, unless he just applied for it. And
He did.
Well-
This is recent, and Susan, before she gave it to the Board of Selectmen, wanted to make sure the planning board didn't have any planning outstanding issues about it. So,
that sounds like you don't, but I do.
right.
Well,
We do, the bond.
well, the bond, but also what Glenn said initially, that it probably is worth confirming at some point that what he's proposing is consistent with the approval that he's been given for his pond excavation. And
Right.
that you guys can loop in with Glenn or Ellen and on that if you need to. Ellie?
And that the digging is where it's supposed to be, and we don't end up with another Toro Mayo.
Correct. Correct. And that, the agreement was a tripart agreement. The Board of Selectmen signed it, the planning board signed it, and Mr. Park signed it. And that you have, it lists like 10 conditions, and that should be in the selectmen's office as well as ours.
Yeah, I mean, stuff like video in the road again,
Mhm.
because he never did anything. It's been videoed once, but it's supposed to be videoed prior to any work starting. A lot of things. So we'll check into this and come back to you on that too.
I'll send Susan an email tonight that just says, put that on hold till you hear back from everybody,
Okay.
so she'll know.
Actually, why don't you put a note for her to put it on Monday's agenda,
Okay,
and we'll talk about it then, because I kind of feel like maybe Mr. Parks is trying to slip something by, but I didn't say that.
Well, you did, and it's gone out to the world and it's recorded. So if it's forever there.
Well, he's tried to do that without his road bond before too, so.
Okay, I think we should stop talking about this now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, next item is a request for release of the balance on an escrow account. And this is for Hanoverian Holdings, which is the One Library Lane. It's the building across from the library on the corner there, the white building. And there, on March 11th, Danielle Kimball from Karen and Bletzer, which is the business there and the owner, addressed to Ellen, says, per our telephone conversation, please accept this email as a formal request for funds to be returned to Hanoverian Holdings, John Bletzer and Jeff Polklopek. Hope I got that right. Hanoverian Holdings LLC, One Library Lane, Kingston, R33-21-1, has completed business before the board. Please return the escrow funds originally at $5,000. Thank you, Danielle Kimball. And then Ellen's note to me says, well, it's asking me if we can release this, and she and I decided that we would bring it to the board tonight because I believe that but our process typically has been that we bring these before the board for a vote when we release funds like this.
My only
So-
question is, has it been, has all the work been completed? The fences up, everything that was part of the plan?
Well, the note from
That's not
Ellen,
escrow.
the note from Ellen says, we've checked that there are no outstanding invoices. Actually, we have funds for 2 applications outstanding. The total for the 2 was originally $6,000.
Did they do the work?
That has nothing to do with the escrow account.
Oh, the
Escrow-
yes.
Go ahead, Glenn.
Go ahead, Ellen.
No, just that the escrow account isn't about the work that's being done. It's just the plan and the application before the board. And they're done with the board.
Oh, I see.
Right.
Oh,
It's the
okay.
it's the fee that an applicant provides to cover for Dennis's review, Glenn's review, any special investigation that might need to be done, and it's a $5,000 amount unless the board.
I understand that, but what about verifying that they did the work right, that Dennis normally checks afterwards
Yeah.
and would send us an invoice for? Is
That
that
has to do with building permits.
That does, that's a code enforcement issue with site plan compliance. That's not the release of the bond that was established to get through the planning process.
Okay,
And what the woman told me is they're not doing it anyway. They've decided not to expand the parking lot. That's what she told me, but it really has nothing to do with this particular process.
okay.
So for our purposes, that application was approved.
Correct.
It was signed off, and I'm assuming it got registered at the Registry of Deeds.
I believe that's correct.
They're all
And,
set.
and any of Dennis's or Glenn's or other invoices have been taken care of.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
that means there's some balance left off that $5,000 or $6,000, whatever that is.
I make a motion, we return the remaining escrow funds for Hanoverian, whatever the rest of it is.
Holdings.
Holdings.
Second.
All right, motion by Lynn, second by Robin. Further discussion. And since we don't have an exact amount, I assume the motion will be that whatever the actual balance is that needs to be returned is what will be returned.
Lynn said the remaining escrow funds, that would cover it.
Oh, okay. All right. Further discussion. Seeing none. Ellen, would you please call the roll?
Okay. Glenn Copeland,
Yes?
Richard Wilson,
Yes,
Robin Dugway,
Yes.
Lynn Merrill,
Yes,
Peter Coffin,
Yes.
Chris Bashaw,
Yes.
Peter Baiki.
Yes,
Okay, thank you. That's unanimous. The motion carries. And before we do board elections, I have one more item. And again, I believe this is something that all board members received. It's a letter from 266 Route 125 LLC. And it relates to not the project that was just approved, but one of the existing buildings on site. This letter is dated February 22nd, and it's addressed to both the select board. Oh, actually, it was addressed to the select board. Okay. Well, anyway, it reads, and this is from John Walters, I believe he's the property owner. It says, pursuant to your inquiry, please note the warehousing and distributions operation of Innovel, parentheses Sears, at the facility located at 266 Route 125, which had historically included direct distributions to homes, were acquired by Costco Innovel Holding Corporation in early 2020 and continue in the same fashion currently, distributing sales directly to homes. Very truly yours, John Walters. Okay. There might have been another letter, and I don't have that one in front of me. Ellen, we were being asked if there was, I think if the planning board needed to do any further review of that, was that the question?
Yes, it's the selectmen. It had been determined that there isn't a business occupancy permit for Costco. So I believe a letter was sent from the selectmen through the inspectors to get that. They got this letter, and of course, they then always refer it to the planning board to make sure the planning board has no further review. So that's now what the board has to determine.
Okay. So am I to understand that it's the building that has been used by Sears Logistics, which was a distribution site, and it's changed names. It's under a different name now, but the function of the facility is still the same. Is that correct?
What the letter said.
That's what the letter said. Okay.
That's what the letter indicates.
All right.
I think where the question came up was that this building is part of the 266 Route 125 plan that we approved. And in improving that, one of the conditions was that there wouldn't be any direct delivery to homes. So that there's a bit of a conflict there because that's part of one of the parcels subdivisions that was included in those conditions. So, however, if it's not being sold, if it's still under the same ownership, it would appear that it could continue operations, without without needing additional approvals to get around that, because obviously those conditions weren't in effect when Sears Logistics was there. So I think that's probably the only reason why it's coming to us as a discussion item at all. And that,
Lynn?
So I'm rather confused from what Peter just said. I was under the impression that the restriction on delivery to homes was only for the new buildings that were being built and not for the existing businesses that were there and for the other buildings that were there. And based on that, I'd like to make a motion that there be no further review.
Second.
I think that since that was all viewed as one project, I think that I agree with you that they should be allowed to continue that as long as it maintains the same ownership. But that's where I think the confusion comes in, is that we granted a condition approval for that entire project, which included all the properties on there, including the one that isn't. Well, no, that was excluded from the one that was going to be the gas station convenience store. It will have to come for a site plan review on its own, but the other parcels were all part of that condition of approval. And I had kind of thought that they were going to be combining those warehouses because they're going to be right next to each other and they're going to have a connector. So,
okay, just so the board is clear and the minutes reflect that we're in further discussion now because we had a motion and a second. Okay. So we're in further discussion. Glenn, can you do you have recall as to whether or not those conditions actually apply to all of the structures on that site or just the new structure with regard to use?
With regard to use, the approval granted what was proposed by the applicant, and the applicant proposed that there was an existing warehouse and an existing office building on the site. So I don't see how the approval that was granted changes the existing situation on site.
Okay.
Had they proposed that that building be used for something different than warehousing, then I guess there would be an issue here. But they didn't propose that there would be a change to the use of the two existing buildings.
In fact, they said a couple times that the existing buildings were going to remain in the use they were being used for now.
Okay. Does anybody recall it differently than that? Okay. All right. Any further discussion then? Okay, seeing none. We have a motion and a second that no further review by this board is required with regard to this change of, essentially change of name, change of ownership for the business located at the former Sears Logistics building. So, Ellen, could you call the roll, please?
Sure. Glenn Copeland,
Yes.
Richard Wilson,
Yes.
Robin DuGuay,
Yes.
Lynn Merrill,
Yes,
Peter Coffin,
Yes.
Chris Bashaw,
Yes.
and Peter Baiki.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Is there any other business to bring before the board before we do the elections? Okay. I was going to open it up to public comment, but they're really, well, actually, Ellie, you're public in this meeting, so any comment from you?
No, I'm all set. Thank you. I wanted to jump in on the other two issues earlier. That's all.
All right.
Besides, you'd miss me if I stopped coming.
Well, we would. Getting used to seeing that box right there with you in it.
I won't be to everything, but every once in a while, Saddle Up was where I was coming from. So
Oh,
good.
well, you'll be able to do that again.
I'm sure on at least one or two occasions.
Oh, probably. Okay, so the way we do this and is that we'll take we have 3 spots that we need to elect: chair, a vice chair, and a representative to the Historic District Commission. We'll take them one at a time. We'll do it by nomination. They can be self-nominated, or they can be nominated by any board member who feels so inclined. And we'll do a vote. And if there are more than one, if there's more than one candidate for any position, when we go to the roll call vote, we'll just ask for the voting individual's choice. We'll tally them that way. So let's start. We'll do our nomination for chair.
I nominate Glenn Koppelman for chair.
Second.
Well, we really don't. We can take the second, but we really don't.
Oh yeah.
We really don't need to.
We're not voting on that.
Congratulations, Glenn.
No. Hang on. Hang on. Are there further nominations for chair?
Who's in the black screen in the middle?
Yes.
Guest? I don't know who that is.
Maybe it should be guessed.
Oh, we do have another member of the public.
They've been here the whole time too.
Oh, well, they didn't signify during public comment, so okay. All right. It appears there are no nominations further on chair, so technically, since there's only one nomination, that's pretty much it, unless you'd like to vote on it.
Don't need to.
We really don't need to.
No.
All right, so that one's done. Nominations for vice chair.
I'll nominate Lynn Merrill for vice chair.
Second.
No seconds.
All right,
Oh, yeah.
We have one nomination for vice chair.
I still second it.
Are there other nominations for vice chair? Okay, seeing none, congratulations, Lynn. And Historic District Commission.
I'll nominate Peter Baiki to be on historic.
That's funny.
I'll nominate Glenn Koppelman to be on the historical district. I've been on it when he's been there and he does a fine job.
Are there other nominations for Historic District Commission representative? Lynn, I'm not going to throw you under the bus, but I do know that in the past you had expressed interest. I just want to make sure that.
Glenn, you do a great job. I think you should continue in that capacity.
Okay. Oh, Ellie, did you have something to say?
Wanted you guys to keep in mind that the HDC will be processing the seminary transition this year.
Yes.
Mr. Chinberg got a 6-month extension on his commitment to the school, so, and I'm guessing that's because of the cost of materials. But be that as it may, in about 4 or 5 months, you'll see that start coming through.
Yep.
And that will take up time.
Yep. Understood. Well, I'm used to that, Ellie, so that's okay.
Right, and it's good to have continuity on there.
All right. Seeing no further nominations, I guess we're done with that one as well. So the positions are status quo for this coming year.
Did you want to do CIP?
We could do CIP.
And just out of curiosity, what's the status of that this year?
Well, Glenn and I have talked about that recently, and I will let Glenn tell you what the status is.
Okay.
Yes, Glenn and I did talk about that just the end of last week. And I'll be there isn't a lot new to it, but we do have to, I have to finalize it and we have to get it endorsed just so that we show that we did one for the year. And so I promised Glenn that I would finish that up, and I actually told him that I'd have it finished for him for today, but I haven't. But it's very close, and when we get it done, it will go out to the committee first and then come back to the planning board.
Thank you, Glenn. So, Ellen?
I didn't know if you wanted me to put it on one of the next 2 meetings.
Yes, please.
Anyone
Glenn,
in particular?
which meeting? Well, we want to make sure that we're going to.
Yeah, because I want to talk with the CIP committee itself, so it really can't be before the April public hearing.
Okay,
So why don't we plan to do it at that meeting, at the April 20th meeting?
April 20th meeting.
And between now and then, Glenn will wrap it up, get it to the CIP committee, get their blessing on it, and then we'll take it up for a vote at the April 20 board meeting. Okay, so are there folks interested in serving on that capital improvements plan committee for this coming year?
Why don't we wait on that until after we've completed the capital plan for the current year, and then start fresh after that? Table it for.
Right, it's fine with me.
That makes perfect sense.
Yep. Okay. All right, that's all I had on the list. Is there anything else to come before this board tonight? Robin?
I just wanted to throw something out there in case there were lingering concerns about my my status as a current member. But in reading the terms, so the term of office is 3 years, and I'm on year 2. So I don't know if that means that I am still.
No,
No,
you're finishing your
Somebody
3rd
in
year.
place.
I believe I replaced somebody. So
No.
I was,
replaced and you just finished their term. You don't start at 1.
That's why you had to run. You finished their term for 2 years.
right. But so if it's okay.
Oh, I see.
So I was thinking if I was still within the 3 years.
No, because what happens is there are 3-year terms, and if someone resigns after they've been elected for the beginning of their 3-year term, the thing that's then on the ballot is just the remaining 2 years of that previous term. So even
Gotcha.
though the term is 3 years, you've only served 2 years because you were finishing up the remainder of that term.
If you pull out the copy of the sheet where you were sworn in, it should say 2 years on it.
It does.
Don't worry, Robin, we still want you.
I just didn't want to be illegitimate.
Hey, I do have one other question. Why is
We
the sun still
don't want you to be illegitimate either, Rob.
why is the sun still shining in Florida and not here?
It's west of us.
Lynn just brought the sunshine with her.
Yeah, we're just a little west of you. The sun sets here about an hour it probably just said about 15 minutes ago. So it's still light out. It's great. Sorry, don't mean to rub it in.
Sure.
It looks lovely.
Hey,
Yeah,
I was
Lynn,
there- I
Lynn,
there
it was
2 weeks
17
ago.
degrees yesterday.
I was
I'm
there 2 weeks
sorry,
ago.
it was 86 degrees today.
I was there
All
2
right.
weeks ago.
Far
I've
too
had enough of
warm.
this I've had enough of this conversation.
Can
went
I
to
just-
eat
can
for
I
a
just
launch, and
remind-
9 seconds before the launch, they scrubbed it.
Oh,
Oh, hold on, Richard. Ellen?
can I just remind Peter and Robin that when they get sworn in, that they should get their swearing in papers to the planning board office, so we have a copy on file? Just to remind you. Thank you.
And if you don't want to drop them off in person, just put them in the mail.
Well, they just leave it at the selectman's office or leave it with Tammy. She'll
Oh.
get them to me,
You're going to be there anyway. Yes,
you know, so.
never mind.
I did inquire about a virtual swearing in, but I don't think we're there yet.
No,
I thought about,
And that was 10 minutes before the meeting started.
well, you know, Peter's already on. You could just call Tammy over.
All right. Is there anything else, folks? All right, seeing none, without objection, then I will call us adjourned at 7:52 p.m. Thank you all and have